Hey there, my fellow author. I'm Sarah Elizabeth Sawyer, an old soul kind of writer living my dream as a full-time author and authorpreneur. But I didn't start out living a confident, creative lifestyle. I struggled with the fears and the mental and emotional barriers that so often plague writers at all stages of their author career. But the truth is that with the right knowledge, tools, and training, you can overcome those barriers. I'm here to teach you how I've developed a lifestyle that's allowed me to publish 19 books and counting. Each week, as you tune into the Confident Fiction Author podcast, you'll get clarity on the steps you need to take to advance your writing career. Whether it's developing your ideal writing routine, tackling new skills like dictating your fiction, or overcoming the obstacles life throws your way, this podcast will help you live a more confident, creative lifestyle. Let's get started. Hey there, my friend, and welcome to this episode of the Confident Fiction Author podcast. I'm your host, Sarah Elizabeth Sawyer, and I want to talk to you today about managing your energy, not just your time, and really focusing on making this your habit that you establish here in the first quarter of the year, or that you just want to work on throughout the year. Because honestly, we hear so much about time management, and that is important. Like, we do want to be aware of where our minutes and our hours are going, especially with scrolling time and all of that. But something that's come up more often here lately, and it's actually something I realized before I heard someone even mention it for the first time, and that is when it comes to creativity and any kind of big projects, but specifically creativity and fiction writing, it's really not about managing your time. That is a factor. I recognize some people have very full lives, but it is more so energy management. And that time when if you work, a full-time job, you come home and you just want to veg out on the couch and scroll, or you're doing homework with the kids, and then it's just getting late in the evening and you're like, I'm just going to read, or maybe sometimes you're even too tired to read. So that's when we turn the TV on, or we are scrolling through Instagram, and it's easy. It's easy to do, and it doesn't require any energy. And so for me, whenever I really began seriously assessing my time, and I would hear people talk about being busy and, just don't have time for that, I took a step back and I was like, no, it's really not time. It's not that I don't have time to write fiction. It's I don't have the energy. So if you've ever been in that place, that's what I want to touch on today, and really talk about how we can make 2026 the year that you focus on managing your energy, especially your creative energy, to be a more consistent and energized author. So let's get into it. We read all of the productivity books. We listen to the podcast on how we can do our morning routines to set ourselves up for the day, and how we can get things done more efficiently and do all of these shortcuts and hacks to save time. And I'm all for that. I do a lot of that myself. I'm always analyzing, how can I make this better? How can I make it more efficient? And making sure that I'm able to get these things done. But too often I fall into the trap of thinking, I don't have time. I don't have time to give to my fiction writing and to my projects. And what I learned to recognize several years ago is it's really not that I don't have the time, it's that I don't have the energy. And once I realized that, I was able to start developing habits and around preserving my energy, or doing things to give me energy so that I could get into my fiction writing. And that's what I started focusing on, rather than trying to figure out time blocks and when I'm going to get my fiction writing in. So it really is about that energy management for me. And that may be what you're facing, because writing does take so much energy. It's great to have those routines where you get to your desk at 7 a.m. and you write for an hour or 3 hours. Like, if you're a full-time writer, that's what you do. That is your routine. that is fantastic. And you may have done that intentionally because you know that's when you are the most energized. That's when you have that focus to be able to get your writing in. Because when your energy is low, you've already found out it's easy to procrastinate and feel stuck. So you may be that author there going, yep, that's me. When I have no energy, yes, I have the time. I'm sitting here scrolling through Instagram. Like I literally am not doing anything productive or important. I just don't have the energy to do my fiction writing. And when you have that shift in your mindset of it's really not time, it's not that, oh, I don't have time to write fiction. It's that I don't have energy. Once you realize that and identify it, that can help you start looking for that energy so that you can become a more consistent writer without burning out. And I talk a lot about burnout on podcasts. I've seen so many authors reach that point. Hopefully here at the start of the new year, you're feeling that energy, and you may want to go back if you missed my first episode of the year here on looking at your year as a week. And this is it. This is the months when we typically have the most energy of the year. If we had some good rest and rejuvenation over the holidays, it's like, okay, now I am ready to get into my fiction writing consistently. And so do use that starting energy here at the beginning of the year, but you will likely feel it waning. And so I just want you to recognize and acknowledge that, yes, I have a lot of energy now. What does that mean? And what can it mean for my productivity and for my fiction writing? Let me give you some practical ways to manage your energy. So beyond looking at your year as a week and thinking about when you have the most energy and when it's kind of you're in that slump in summer and the holidays, and also you've identified the big rhythms of your year and when you have the most energy for fiction writing. So beyond that, kind of bringing it down to your actual weeks and your actual days. And that's where I want you to identify your peak creative times, whether that's in the morning, in the afternoon, or the evening. I'm a morning writer myself. I like to get my fiction writing done first thing in the morning. Otherwise, it follows me around all day and pesters me. You need to be writing. But more than that, that's when I have the most creative energy. That's when, not that I'm like highly energized in the morning, it's just I haven't spent my energy on all of the other tasks and distractions of the day. I don't have text messages or phone calls. I stay out of my inbox until my fiction writing is done. So I don't have anything that started pecking away at that energy and leaving me depleted by the afternoon. I am not looking to do any kind of creative work. Typically, like I need to get it done in the morning while I have that energy reserve from resting overnight and doing my morning routine that gets me going and gets me energized. I do know some authors who are afternoon writers, but typically I find it mostly falls into the category of morning or evening writers. If you are an afternoon writer, like maybe you take that snooze, you've had lunch, you take a snooze and you wake up and you're like, I want to get my fiction writing done. Like I have won the day. I've done my heavy work this morning. I am going to get my fiction writing done. Or if you're working, a full-time job, as many of you are, maybe that's your lunch break. Maybe that's that time when you have that pocket of space, all of your energy is not depleted for the day, and you're able to get some words in over lunch. And you're feeling energized and motivated because you only have that time slot and that burst of adrenaline. That is your energy to get your fiction writing done. So identify that. Like get to know when you have that extra energy to do fiction writing. And often deadlines can create energy. So just a side note, when you're not feeling very motivated and inspired, if you have that deadline or if you put your fiction writing into that small block of time of your lunch hour, that in itself will give you energy to get your fiction writing done. I know a lot of authors are evening or even night writers. They will not start writing until it's past 10, 11, midnight. And it's like, that's when their creativity switches on. They have that energy to get into their fiction writing. They have done the entire day, everything is cleared off, and they feel like, and this may be you just feel like you can sit down and get your writing done, the creative juices are going, and you get into your fiction worlds. None of these are right or wrong. I do have my preferences and leaning toward mornings, and I do advocate for that, but I also recognize that some authors hit their peak with having a deadline in the afternoon or having that nap time, or in the evening or at night is when they really want to get into writing. So there's no right or wrong. Again, with this, it's whatever you identify as your peak time. The main thing is just being aware of it and starting to figure out what works best when you have the most energy for your writing. So once you have done that, then you can build your writing sessions around your energy peaks rather than the clock. Another thing you can do to manage your energy is writing in short bursts. So writing, you have those focused times of getting your writing done, whether it's in the morning, but I would say especially in the afternoon, that maybe you follow it with intentional rest. So I mentioned about taking a nap, and yes, I lay down for a snooze, not a deep nap, but a snooze just about every day. And sometimes right before I do that is a good opportunity for me to do a bit of fiction writing while I'm laying in bed, because I dictate my stories. So I can lay down, do a bit of fiction writing, and just kind of doze off from there. And that's like totally fine. Like I'm telling myself a story and dozing off. And this may be something you do at night as well, is you get that fiction writing and then it's followed by intentional rest. So that helps your brain know that it's okay to spend energy on writing fiction because you're about to get replenished with it. You're going to get that rest, and therefore you work your way around that brain block of, no, we have to conserve energy. We can't spend it on fiction writing because we may need it for the fight or flight mechanism. And instead, your brain knows that you are going to get your writing done, and then you're going to rest and replenish that energy. So consider using the short burst of focused fiction writing time followed by intentional rest. The other thing that you can do, and just on a really practical and personal level with managing your energy and how that relates to fiction writing, for me, fiction writing gives me energy. So that's one way I really get around that brain block of wanting to conserve the energy, is once I get into my flow and I get a few sentences in, I get a couple of minutes into my story and I'm rolling, I can write for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, up to 4 hours. And I feel more energized than when I started. So fiction writing, being in those creative worlds, getting into my creative flow, it actually produces energy. And that's another reason why I like starting my day off that way, because it is actually, instead of depleting energy and like, okay, now I only have so much energy left for all of the other things today, instead it gives me energy and it fuels me for the day. So that's something to be aware of as you're looking at fiction writing, is identify, does it actually give you energy? Like when you start a writing session versus when you end it, do you feel more or less energized? And there are different types of energy. We have, physical energy and emotional energy and creative energy. So for me, when I used to type my stories, that would drain me energy-wise, physically especially. So that physical drain that I used to feel with typing, I don't have that with dictating. And that's why I say, dictating fiction is really what energizes me. Writing fiction, just if I'm typing it or handwriting it, would be energizing to a degree, but that energy would be offset because I was so physically tired from the typing, being hunched over my desk or being hunched over that keyboard or holding my pencil. So that's just another tip. If you don't currently dictate your fiction, that's something that I do. I teach authors how to dictate their fiction, and that is a tremendous tool to not only conserve, but produce energy after a writing session if you have dictated your words. As I said in the beginning, look at making this your new habit for the new year. Really think about energy management and identifying those peak times that you have, and then start experimenting with it. Experiment with writing for 25 minutes when you feel energized, and then take a 5-minute break and assess, how do you feel? How did you feel before you started writing? How did you feel after you finished your writing session? How long is too long? If you go too long and it just really drains you, then you may want to pull back and do shorter bursts. Instead of going for 3 hours of writing, maybe you write for 45 minutes and take that break, or go off and do something else and then come back and write another 45 minutes to an hour. And just experiment. See how that makes you feel. See what helps create energy rather than depleting you. And then ultimately remember that this is not about creating a strict schedule or routine, because your energy ebbs and flows, especially throughout the week. Maybe you have more writing energy on Monday, but by Friday, you're pretty much done. So recognize your patterns each day, and then also for the entire week of writing. And it's definitely not about having a strict schedule of Monday through Friday. These are the times you absolutely have to write. You can do that if that's what works in your writing routine, but just know you can also go with your own rhythms and ebbs and flows of your energy throughout the week. Let me give you some simple energy boosting practices. I already mentioned a couple of them, fiction writing being one of the main ones that boost my energy. But talking about physical energy, it's good to get up and move your body and walk and stretch and hydrate before, during, and or after a writing session. They say that walking actually helps with creativity. It fuels your creativity. It helps you with problem solving, which again, dictation, marvelous for that, because you can walk while you create. But then you also may need to just walk around and take a break to re-energize your physical body in between or before or after you do your fiction writing. Mental energy. Big one. This is where we think we don't have enough time to do our fiction writing. That's a mental thing. Like we're like, oh, I'm just so busy. And really, I'm sitting on the couch scrolling through social media for 2 hours in the evening. It's not that I'm lacking time to do my fiction writing. I'm just out of mental energy. So there's several things you can do to help with your mental energy, reducing distractions and doing brain dump before you write, like with morning pages where you're just clearing everything out of your brain so that you have that mental space to do your fiction writing. I cover a lot more, several more tips on this way back in episodes 14 and 15. Actually, I did kind of a little mini series there. One was Break Free from Overwhelm. That's episode 14. It's all about mastering essentialism for your author life. And then episode 15, I did Decluttering your author life to make room for creativity. So if you're wanting some more specific tips on reducing distractions and clearing out the clutter so that you can do your fiction writing, go check out those two episodes, number 14 and 15 of the Confident Fiction Author podcast. And then there's two other energies that I want to talk about. There's creative energy, and this is all about refilling your creative well. This is something that I do, especially in December of each year, but all throughout the year, I am always refilling my creative well. And that's where I'm putting out so much creativity. I need something back. I need more input so that I can pour out more. And I do this through reading. You can do it with music and with rest. Like that's a big one of just refilling that creative energy. That's episode number 16. So that was a part of that little series that I did, 14, 15, and 16. So number 16 was the art of downtime, and that's the 3 R's for the author life. So go check those out for ways that as a fiction author, you can really utilize your downtime rather than just scrolling through social media. You're getting to utilize that time when you're too tired to write to refill your creative well. So go check out those 3 podcast episodes as well. And then lastly, emotional energy. Just want to encourage you to give yourself grace. There are times when you just really don't need to force productivity when you're drained. I had an author ask me about with dictating her fiction, she was like, sometimes I'm too tired to speak, much less type my words, but I can't even talk. I can't even speak my words of fiction. And that's where I encouraged her. I gave her some tips, all of these things, several of these things that I'm sharing with you. But I told her, sometimes you just need to rest. And rather than beating yourself up and being like, oh, I've got to get my writing done, just give yourself permission to rest, even if it's just a couple of minutes. I have found that I can lean back in my chair for just not even 5 minutes, just like 2 minutes, 60 seconds, and close my eyes, really rest my face muscles and rest my brain, and just allow myself to be like, hey, it's okay. You're okay. You just need a little bit of rest before you get into your fiction writing. I've had this even first thing in the mornings where I'm just like, I've had a long week and I'm trying to get in, my hour of writing or just 5 minutes. And I'm like, okay, just sit, just rest for a couple of minutes. Close your eyes again, even though it's still in the morning, and just let yourself relax and let your emotions settle down. And then I activate my dictation function and get into my fiction writing. And just recognize that sometimes you just need rest. And that maybe just that 60 seconds isn't enough. Maybe it is that you need a nap, or that you do need to get to bed earlier and do things that help you get better sleep at night. So all of these things affect our energy in being able to get our fiction writing done. But I just want to recognize, especially in certain hard seasons of our lives when we're going through a crisis, that sometimes we just need to give ourselves grace in getting our fiction writing done. All right, and wrapping up here, what do you think? Are you already kind of considering when your peak writing times are? Maybe these are things you've identified, but you haven't really articulated it or put your finger on it of, oh, that's why I like to write at night, or that's why I'm better writing during my lunchtime or in the morning. So I just want to invite you to think about that. Think about your energy when it's up and down. If it's something you haven't thought about before, or even if it's something you've established, just give it some thought and really recognize and acknowledge how you manage your energy, or how you currently maybe aren't managing your energy, and make that your habit for the new year. Make it a goal to develop this habit of managing your creative energy and just managing your energy overall, so that you have that creative energy to do your fiction writing. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. When are you the most energized during the day? And especially in a creative sense, like when do you feel you are the most energized to get your fiction writing done? You can head over to fictioncourses.substack.com, drop a comment on this podcast episode, and let me know. Let me know when your peak energy is for the day and how you're going to be thinking about that in terms of getting your fiction writing done consistently and with more energy. That's it for this episode, my friend. I will see you in the next one of the Confident Fiction Author podcast. Take care.